I'm going to kind of segue into supplements. I don't have great news for you, actually, when it comes to supplements. There isn't now. We just don't have a lot of data. And I really tried to pull MS specific data. There isn't a lot. That doesn't mean that these supplements aren't useful. They are, but they're also not the main part of treating fatigue. And I have never, ever seen people go on the supplements that I'm about to show you and all of a sudden say, hey, my fatigue is so much better. Okay, never, not once. Okay, so I think the only time that it makes sense to use supplements is when you are putting good lifestyle habits in place. You can add on the supplements to kind of bridge you until you get to a better place and you can start peeling off the supplements. Okay, so this is my non-negotiable one for so many reasons. We call vitamin D a pleiotropic vitamin. Basically, it means it does everything. It's almost easier to talk about what it doesn't do. So it's a very potent modulator of the immune system. It just straightens out your immune system. It just works better. It's good for surveilling the body for abnormal growths that may become a tumor or a cancer. So this is why you want to have a nice, robust vitamin D level. It has antiviral properties. So there are protocols where somebody thinks they're coming down with a cold or a flu or a COVID. You give, 3 days of high dose vitamin D, and hopefully you can avert a really bad infection. So I just pulled one study. They basically took people with MS and checked their baseline vitamin D levels, and then gave them vitamin D until they got them over a vitamin D level of 30, a total vitamin D level of 30. And what they came back and reported was that their quality of life and their fatigue improved. That's supposed to say significantly. Okay, so vitamin D is powerful and it's cheap. Like it could be $5 a month if you have to pay a copay, right? For some people, or, you don't need to get it as a prescription if you could just pick it up over the counter, but your dose will vary because of how your body might metabolize it. So I always tell people, pick a dose, maybe between 2 to 5,000 IUs daily, international units daily. Do that for 8 weeks, and then go get tested to see what your body did with it. And then your doctor can help you adjust your dose as needed. For most of us with MS, I think getting to a vitamin D level of 50 to 60 is a good place to start. In some cases, it might actually help you to get even higher, but that's something you'll need to talk to your neurologist about, because really, really high vitamin D levels, and by really high, I mean, getting closer to 80 may actually even be really helpful with MS, but it may have some onward effects on bone health. So we just want to make sure somebody who knows your medical history decides what's the right range for you. Okay, CoQ10. And I've basically taken the most commonly used supplements for fatigue that are oftentimes found in combination products. And I'm just giving you the different components so that some of you might be taking something for fatigue as a supplement. So I want you to understand what each component is. CoQ10 is something we use a lot for our healthy heart patients because it helps fuel the heart muscle, right? It works in the mitochondria and helps with producing energy. So organs that use a lot of energy can really benefit from CoQ10. So that's the brain, it's the heart, and it's the muscles. So if we can fuel our mitochondria, these 3 organs will work really well. Okay, so there was a randomized double-blind placebo-controlled study that showed that using 500 milligrams of CoQ10 every day significantly improved fatigue and depression in people with MS. Okay, so this is a high-quality study. It was randomized, double-blind, all of that. They used actually a higher dose of CoQ10 than I normally use. With most of my patients, I do like maybe 100 to 300 because it's an expensive supplement. It's just not, useful long-term. And we know that at about 1 to 300 milligrams, there's benefit for fatigue. So anyways, again, I'm not giving out all of this information for you to run out and buy all these products and take them, but I want you to know how to use them. So if you are already using them, look and see how how your dosing compares with what I'm saying in the research. And then if you end up working with an integrative provider or a naturopathic doctor, you can have a discussion whether or not this is appropriate for you. And then alpha lipoic acid is it's a potent antioxidant. And it's anti-inflammatory and it's immunomodulatory. It basically works on the immune system as well. So, we talk about antioxidants a lot. We throw that word a lot, but every time you hear that word, you're thinking about antioxidants putting up a shield around proteins and cells so that they're not damaged. Because as a normal part of how our body functions, we produce molecules that are dangerous. Even when we eat and digest food, we produce these dangerous reactive oxygen species, and they create this oxidative stress. So then we have to use our antioxidants to neutralize it. So this is why it's important to get a lot of antioxidants. We build antioxidants, but guess what? We get a lot of antioxidants from plant-based foods. Plants actually produce antioxidants to protect themselves, but when we eat those plants, we get that cellular protection. Okay, so I couldn't find a great study on alpha lipoic acid and MS fatigue, but I thought this one was interesting. This was a 2-year-long randomized double-blind study of secondary progressive MS. And these people over 2 years showed a 68% reduction in brain volume loss. That sounds pretty interesting, right? And alpha lipoic acid is generally pretty safe to take. Again, I want you to be supervised by somebody who understands these things to make sure there's no interactions, but you may find this in a fatigue supplement that you may be using, or if you're looking to use it. So I just want you to understand it. And I forget now what the dose they used is. I can't remember if it was 500 milligrams or 3,000 milligrams, but in studies, all kinds of doses are used. So this is why it's important to work with somebody who understands these supplements so they can dial in the right dose for you. And then carnitine is something that can also help with energy production, also found in mitochondria to produce energy. And the data is kind of inconclusive on this. I couldn't really, come and tell you that you must be on this supplement. I just don't see enough data. But food sources of this are animal products, especially like meats that are that redder color will have more carnitine in them. And the reason I put the food sources here is that there are many of us here who may be on plant-based diets, or we may be vegetarian or vegan and getting very little animal products. I just want to suggest, if you are open to the idea that you may, if you are experiencing fatigue, if it is something that's acceptable to you, to include some animal products and see how you do. Now, I understand there's religious reasons and other personal preferences, animal rights issues, like I get it. And if this is repulsive to you, I'm completely on board with you. Like I would never force anybody to eat anything they're not on board with. But it's an idea, because if you can supply carnitine in food form, it might help your fatigue. And one thing I also want to say is, I think it's safe to say that nutrients from food are better absorbed than nutrients from supplements. So anyways, let's move on. And then medicinal mushrooms can be also useful for fatigue. I would really like you to work with a practitioner on this one. They can be anti-cancer, antiviral, and they do work on the immune system. They work through many mechanisms and many different systems of the body. They work through the neuro system, muscles, immune system, and they can be very powerful. This was an 8-week study looking at reishi mushrooms in chronic fatigue syndrome patients, and they showed an improvement in fatigue. So I think, if you're not sure where to start with mushrooms, start with eating them. go to your farmer's market and pick, skip the white button mushrooms, like go to the fancier ones and try to bring some of those into your diet. And I think it's important to be safe, because when I say immunomodulatory, I mean that like they can suppress the immune system and they can stimulate the immune system. And we just want to make sure we're being careful. So some mushrooms are more potent than others, and I want to make sure that you're being safe. Oh, and if you love mushrooms, please watch these two movies. The one on the Fantastic Fungi has my most beloved person that does time-lapse photography, Louis Schwartzberg. It's exquisite. And then Paul Stamets, who's sort of a self-taught mycologist, is the person that is being featured. It's a movie about his work. So anyways, please watch it with your family. You will never walk on the earth again without thinking about fungi and mycelium and what's going on under the surface. And then Michael Pollan's book on how to change your mind explores the world of psychedelics for mood. So it's fascinating. I'm not condoning that you need to go out and do psychedelics. I am not trained. I don't know. I'm not going to go there, but I think, and this comes in the Michael Pollan book comes in a Netflix 4-part series. It's fascinating. So let's all learn more about mushrooms. Okay, so if you have fatigue, you're going to rule out your reversible causes. You're going to look for your underlying causes. You're going to work on nutrition and other lifestyle habits. I didn't have time to talk about all of the other things. I focused on nutrition today. I want you to be careful about using supplements. I don't think they work well on their own. They really have to be instituted with you trying to sleep better, get deeper sleep, more exercise. And by the way, with fatigue, I know it sounds ridiculous to ask you to go exercise, but exercise that doesn't help make you crash, just enough where you're moving and staying conditioned is what I'd like you to do. Other things to think about. I'm going to put these on the list just so that they're on your mind. You can talk to your doctors about this. Antiviral medications can actually help some people with fatigue because they have lots of viruses floating around in them. Low-dose naltrexone is a prescription medication that is very safe and well tolerated with DMTs and can help with inflammation and fatigue. I love traditional Chinese medicine because there's a lot of wisdom there and it works with your body. So you might be doing herbs or acupuncture.